Can you settle down? Once again, very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm welcome to each one of you for our another edition of Read and Grow session. All the speakers are already arrived. Before I call upon them to take the stage, I will briefly tell you what's happening. I don't know whether you have missed your inbox. If you have missed your inbox, just note down your calendar and make sure that you attend. Tomorrow we have Narayanan Endowment Lecture by Mr. Manish Tiwari, Country Manager, Indian Global Business of Amazon. I think he's one of the very finest mind in retail business, and he's going to speak to us about how e-commerce is transforming the Indian businesses. It's good to come and see because a lot of MSMEs really flourished under some of the thing, but it's got various issues too. But come and listen. If you're not registered, register, because this is only with prior registration. We expect large number of people to attend this event. Then on 24th January, again we have an event, excellent event, Well Left. Well Left is by Bharati Bhaskar. You all know Bharati Bhaskar is very leading, debater, and she's a motivational speaker. She's going to talk about Well Left and why Well Left. And she's taking the correlation with Ashwin, match against Pakistan. He leaves the ball. So what happened? He gets one extra run and also one extra ball. That one extra ball made him score a 6, and India won the match against Pakistan. So many a time she says, many things in your life you must live it actually. That is why it's called Well Left, and you must try and attend. You will learn some. She's a fantastic speaker. Try and come. It's a very, very good event. Then on Friday, the 27th of January, we have again one of the finest speaker. I'll actually walk miles to listen to him. Over the barrel, a perspective on oil industry, oil markets, and the geopolitical drivers. Today oil is really ruling the thing, and how much is impacting inflation. So many things. We have got Mr. Ilango. He's the managing director of Hindustan Oil Exploration Company, and we also have to chair the session. We have Mr. Shankar. Then on Monday the 30th, we do an event on Tamil as committed management techniques in Tirukkural. It's a very good. We have Professor Sundaramurthy. Excuse me, gentlemen. Excuse me. You can go out to speak, then come in. Are you okay, comfortable? Can I go on, or you want me to wait? I can wait for some time. Thank you for your understanding. Then we have an event by Mr. Sundaramurthy. He is a Vice Chancellor of, because this auditorium, I must tell you, it picks up sound very clearly. Even somebody, any corner, comes to my ear because the acoustic is very good. So when you come into the auditorium, the time is ours. When you're out, the time is yours. Thank you for your understanding. Sundaramurthy is a Vice Chancellor of Tamil University from Tanjavur. He is going to be talking to us on management technique in Tirukkural. So all this program, what I am talking to you, is also available on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. Then we have in February, Chitra Madhavan is talking. Then we have again a very interesting event on internal migration, impact of demography and economy. Then leadership quality of Tirukkural. Then again in the month of February we have a national convention. I'll talk about February later. Now I think till January we have packed up with a number of activities. Coming to today's event, Read and Grow. Ladies and gentlemen, this event we are doing only for the management students. But for you, we have no intention of doing this event because you have to be a great leader, you have to be a great reader. I've seen, at least in my MMA corporate world, I come across hundreds and hundreds of corporate leaders. All of them are voracious readers actually. If you're a voracious reader, it enhances your quality of thinking, quality of thought process, and you speak very well without looking for words, and you write very well. And this I can tell you, I have personally experienced this, and that's the reason good some of you choose to come here. And many of you are watching this live online, and very good because a team of professionals are running this program month after month, putting in tremendous effort to select the book, select the co-panelists, discuss over the period, and so that they want to make this event really, really phenomenal takeaway for each one of you. That's the idea. So today's subject, what you are going to do is The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And Infinite Game is a book very, very important because it talks all about how you run your organization and get back to normalcy. Especially post-pandemic, many leaders followed this book, and some of the best principles given in this book will not only stand you good in your business, it will stand you good in your personal life, how to get back to your normal routine work when you get stuck with some of the thing which impact you. Gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome. We have an outstanding panelist for this evening. Let me invite onto the stage Mr. Ramaprasad, the Director of CADD Centre Chennai. He'll be leading the conversation with our special invitees for this evening, Ms. Viji, founder of CecureUs, and Mr. Babu is Head of Global Regulatory Affairs, Pfizer Healthcare India Private Limited. Before I will request Mr. Ram to take over, let me briefly introduce all the panelists. We have an outstanding panelist. Hi, Babu, welcome. Good to see you. And we have very outstanding panelists. Let me recognize Babu. He is one of the pioneers in setting the things here, because we are able to do some phenomenal work because of people like Babu and Sangeeta, Sumesh, and also Ram. Ram, popularly known as Ramaprasad, is founder Director of CADD Centre Training Center. He is also founder of Enabler of Samrathya. Is also done his masters in MSc Technology, and is also a student of BITS Philanis and certified NLP practitioner. At CAS Centre, he grew to become an executive director of the company in a span of 15 years, and during his tenure, CAS Centre was instrumental in establishing his establishment in Delhi and a number of other places. Mr. Ram Prasad is also a Rotarian, having Rotary Club of Madras West as his 50th president. Golden Jubilee president is something very, very special, and made the club more vibrant with his interpersonal skills. He also initiated the dialysis center at the club at Thiruvetkadu, and which is very, very important for people who have kidney ailments. Ram Prasad was the vice chairman of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce of Tamil Nadu chapter, which is a chamber to promote his business between India and USA. Very warm welcome to you, Ram. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, and we need people so passionate like you, so that the others really emulate you and watch you to become a great reader. Let me have the privilege of introducing Ms. Viji. She is a founder of CecureUs. She has authored a book, BCC, Behind the Closed Cubicles, and also Break the Taboo. She is also an expert in creating safe and inclusive workplaces. His aim is to impact not just the brand, but also productivity and work culture. She focused quite a bit of work in the area of women empowerment. She is also co-founder and author. She specializes in creating safe workplace by preventing sexual harassment at the workplace, with 22 years of experience in the area of training large number of MNCs to really adhere to these issues, which is to become a more embarrassing to for the organization is not really controlled at the right time. Viji is also a serial entrepreneur with the co-founder of Kelp HR in 2013, and also moved on as founder of CecureUs, and he has also over 20 years of industry experience. She did her gender diversity program from INSEAD and has hosted many of the online diversity summit prior to the CecureUs and Kelp HR. Very warm welcome to you, Viji. It's a pleasure to have you with us again at MMA. Welcome back. Let me have the pleasure of introducing another distinguished panel for this evening, Mr. Babu. Babu is Head of Global Regulatory Affairs of Pfizer Healthcare India. You know, Pfizer is one of the finest healthcare industry in the world today, and he's got over 25 years of experience in pharma industry, and has held many leadership positions in regulatory affairs, function in some of the industry's largest pharma companies in India, and which include Watson, Activa, Teva, Dupin, and much more. And Babu's earned a bachelor degree from pharma from BITS Pilani. He was a junior to Mr. Ram, and a premier educational institution in India. And he also pursued his master in pharma with specialization in pharmacology from All Amin College of Pharmacy from Bangalore, and also was a university topper in his batch. He also earned his MBA in Human Resources from IGNOU, New Delhi, India. Currently, he is pursuing his PhD management from BITS Pilani, and is also off-campus faculty of BITS National Management. One thing what you youngsters can learn from the profile of Babu is a lifelong learner. I mean, he has achieved the topmost position in Pfizer, still is pursuing his studies and trying to become a PhD. I think that is one, being a lifelong learner helps you a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause to our faculty for panel for this evening. We are really looking forward to a great evening, sir. Over to you, Mr. Ram.
Thank you, Group Captain Vijay Kumar, for this wonderful introduction and this opportunity. Good evening to all of you, and a very happy new year, because this is the first time we are doing the book review in this year. Today we are living in a world of instant gratification. Now this book is very relevant from that perspective, so I chose this book from Simon Sinek called Infinite Game. People play two kinds of games. One is a finite game where the players are well defined, the rules of the games are well defined, and the basic objective of the game is to win. And when you win, the game ends there. So that is the finite game. And people who are playing the finite game like soccer or cricket know exactly who their opponents are, who their players are, and they play to win. That is what we call as a finite mindset. Similarly, an infinite game is a game played without any boundaries, without any rules. You don't know who your opponents are, you don't know who the other players are, and the game is played not for winning but to perpetuate the game. So people continue to play the game till they get out of the game. The game still continues. Whereas the finite game, once you win, the game ends. So here what Simon Sinek has done is he has taken us through several examples starting from the Vietnam War, where the Americans lost the war despite winning a lot of battles, where he clearly says Americans played with a finite mindset. They fought the war with a finite mindset, which is the mindset of winning. Whereas Vietnamese fought for their lives, which is an infinite game. Though they must have lost a lot of lives, but eventually they won the war. That's how he starts the book. And then he goes on to explain various companies. One of his favorite examples is Microsoft and Apple, wherein Microsoft started with a very good vision of enabling people, work better with the devices, and over a period of time, that shifted to a number game. So when the former CEO Steve Ballmer took over the company, he was driving the company for winning. So when a finite mindset leader plays an infinite game, it's not good for the company. And that's the point he brings out by giving the example of Microsoft. At the same time, Apple, they were very clear about their vision. They were not fighting with the competition, rather they were working for betterment of the community. So once he also gives an example where he is going in a car with the Apple executive and he says Microsoft has introduced a new product called Zune, which is far superior in technology compared to the iPods that time. So he triggers a conversation and asks that Apple guy, you know something, Microsoft has released a product called Zune, which is far, far superior technically compared to your product. And you know what Apple responded? He said, yeah, that can happen. Fine. But we are not competing. We are working for community's betterment. So they came up with the iPhone later and made other things redundant. Now that's because Apple was operating with the infinite mindset, whereas Microsoft was operating with a finite mindset. That's the example. And he also talks about 5 levers of infinite mindset. 5 levers of infinite mindset, which is basically, the first lever is the just cause. Any company is operating to advance a just cause. So if you look at any company which has a vision, which has a just cause, he also differentiates why from just cause. Just cause is something belonging to the future, which is going to be useful for the community, for the betterment of the world, where people will be willing to sacrifice to join the company. Now, that's the kind of just cause you need to have. Building trusting teams is the second lever, because any organizations, if they don't have a trusting team, it's going to suffer. So building trusting team is the second lever. And thirdly, competitors. Competitors are very much essential, because if you have a worthy competitor, you can learn from them and improve yourself. So don't treat your competitor as a real competition for you to beat, but to learn from them and improve on that. And the fourth one is existential flexibility, which means for a company to survive, you need to be flexible enough to exist. So he gives the example of Victorinox, the Swiss knife company, which was almost holding 95% of the market share in the Swiss knife till 9/11. After that, the entire Swiss knife was banned and the market share dropped for the Swiss knives to almost negligible thing, but they actually diversified into other products and eventually grew the business where the leader was working with the infinite mindset using the existential flexibility, which means they were flexible enough to change the range of product and grow. And finally, anyone has to demonstrate, the infinite leader with the infinite mindset has to demonstrate the courage to lead despite the conventional thinking. So how to actually deviate from your standard products and then still be advancing your company. So these are the 5 levers he talks about with a lot of examples. So that's a book which we are going to review. I have 2 lovely panelists with me from diversified background. Viji Hari from HR and providing safe and harmonious workplace, and CecureUs company, and we have Babu from the pharma company. So my first question to the panelists today, it's going to be, what are your key takeaways from the book? So we'll start with Viji and follow with Babu.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So my key takeaways from this particular book, first of all, it's a brilliant book, which is a must-read for all leaders and management, and not just leaders. There are so many examples, even for politicians, how you have to create a vision for the long term as a legacy and not just something as a short term for your duration, right? So there's so many lessons, right, from investors, politicians, leaders, CEOs, managers, supervisors. Everyone is a must read because earlier we all used to keep talking about growth mindset. This is like one step ahead, and they're talking about infinite mindset. We don't just focus on short-term goals, but look at it as a long-term vision. What is it that is going to cost? So my specific takeaways, I specifically work the cause that I'm working, and this book really talks about just cause. So I believe my organization, CecureUs, works with the cause of creating secure and harmonious workplace. So from that, the just cause, and Simon Sinek, the first page of the book, he very clearly talks about stating that in your life, you have 2 paths every time that you go through, right? One path will lead you to wins and victories, which is with a finite mindset. The other path, which is a longer path, but which leads to fulfillment in your life. And even when you've retired and at the end of it, when you look back, you have that fulfillment and satisfaction. And that is something I could really relate with for the things that I've been doing. I deal with handling sexual harassment cases. So every time I go and handle a sexual harassment case, a victim being harassed, the fulfillment that you get, or for the cause of diversity and inclusion, creating happy workplaces. So that is the fulfillment, and that is just cause, which is a very strong takeaway for me, definitely. And I also work with organizations in terms of belongingness, diversity. When we're talking about, there's something called belongingness is one of the aspects that we talk about, where employees should have that sense of belonging to an organization. And there are beautiful examples which Simon Sinek has actually spoken in the chapter of trusting teams, where he quotes saying that he once visited Four Seasons Hotel in Las Vegas. And there, in a coffee shop, he met an employee called Noah. So he was looking at Noah, and a very exciting personality. And because of Noah, he said, hey, I felt like ordering a coffee. So I just ordered a coffee and started having a conversation with Noah. And while speaking to Noah, Simon Sinek was asking him, hey, what makes you, how do you like this job? What is the question that Simon asks Noah. And Noah answers saying, I love this job. I love working here. So the difference here is I like my job versus I love my job, right? So even Simon goes to the extent of comparing, saying it with, like, if you ask any husband saying, how's your marriage? Oh, I like my wife. So you know what the answer is, right? So that's how he goes about comparing. Whereas he further explains, stating that he was curious with Nova, and he asked Nova, so tell me more about why you like this job. To which Noah goes about answering that, hey, I'm also working doing a night shift with another coffee shop also, but there I keep my head low. I just want to finish off that shift. I'm there only to get the paycheck because I need that money. But here, I would do anything to work in this place. And Simon goes on to check with him why. And the answer is that, the simple answer that he says is that, my managers over here, they just drop in, visit us, and they keep asking us, hey, is there anything that I can do to help you, to make you better over here? That is not part of, and this is not just my boss, but any senior person in the hotel would come and check with me, and they do that with every employee. And that is a simple thing that makes all the difference. And that is what makes an organization, trusting teams and building that team. And Four Seasons has built a brand where everyone just loves visiting that organization just for the sake of the employees, how the employees greet you with, like, hello saying versus just saying good morning, just for the sake of it, right? So you can feel that joy in how the employees, and a very close relation over here in our very own Mumbai Taj hotels during the bomb blast that we had, this eventful day, how the employees were even willing to give their lives to protect the guests in the hotel. And I think that is something that's a very important takeaway for me. That is something that I'll also want you all to go back with.
That was lovely. So when you build a trusting team, you're assured of a great customer experience. I think that is one thing which came out. Now over to Babu for his takeaways.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. At the outset, I want to thank MMA for giving me this opportunity, and thank you, Ram, for connecting me with MMA. And I want to compliment MMA for all the great work you are doing, especially Read and Grow, like Captain said, that readers are leaders. So I'm very happy the way you are promoting book reading. This is very important. I see a lot of youngsters here, the future leaders. So I think what differentiates you in your life is the wisdom that you gain. And you can gain wisdom, not information, only through reading. So important habit that you should inculcate, and very happy that MMA is promoting book reading. So coming to that question, and about my takeaways, Ram, of course, I echo whatever you said, and of course, Viji nicely has summarized. So I don't have much to add, but again, just to reflect on my takeaways. So, I mean, I will probably continue where Viji left. So what drives you every day? Why do you wake up in the morning and do what you want to do? What makes you wake up every day? And what drives your actions? I think that's a cause. It's not just earning money, it's not making money, and it's not earning for getting the food on the table. So the purpose, the fuel for our actions has to be much, much bigger than as the materialist things. So entire focus of the book is that. Ram has nicely started with he talked about just cause, same thing Viji mentioned. She quoted the example of Taj, right? And we do this, we do see these kind of examples everywhere, every day, right? I remember actually when we had Chennai floods in 2015, of course, everyone is very seriously impacted. I mean, that example flashes to me. And we had some critical, I come from pharma industry, and we register products across the world. And with a vision that we provide breakthrough medicines to treat patients, that change patients' lives. If you go to our website, the vision statement of Pfizer is that breakthroughs that change patients' lives. So that's our vision. So, and in Chennai, of course, we have a big setup that helps Pfizer register products across the geographies. Name the country, in fact, we register Pfizer's products there. So back to the story, example I'm just sharing. When we had the torrential rains, Chennai was flooded, and I think we all were stuck here at home, and we had some critical submissions to be made, regulatory submissions in some of the geographies in the world. And if we don't do the submissions get delayed, the approvals get delayed, the launch of the products get delayed in the market, and patients are going to suffer. Trust me, we never asked our colleagues, but some of the colleagues, They went to office in the floods on their own and made sure that the submissions have been delivered to, of course, everything is digital. It's electronic submission. We don't do physical copies nowadays. So they made sure that the huge regulatory submissions, we call them regulatory submissions, registration submissions, they were delivered to the regulatory agencies in time, despite getting affected by the floods. I think this is what actually, I think is another example, I mean, in addition to what Viji said, I think is that no, the purpose, the love for what you do, why you are doing. Simon also has another book on why, start with why. So the why is very important for all of us. It's just not doing a degree, it's not just going to work to earn money, to make money, just not actually getting promoted, just not getting married, having children. And he gave a lot of examples even about parenting. Parents who push their children to get first rank versus parents who make sure that their children become a student's lifelong. At the end, it's not the first rank. Maybe you're first rank, you're a topper, maybe in Tamil Nadu. Maybe because I felt that, I mean, Ram, of course, we both came from same institute. I was a topper in my place, my district, and one of the toppers in my state when I went to BITS. But again, I realized when I went to BITS, I'm actually one among several toppers. So it is all relative. I think the ranks and the positions, the turnover, the top line, bottom line, the profits, is all actually very relative. So they don't make any sense actually in one way. Right? So back to the point, I realized in BITS all the toppers come there, and I was one of hundreds of toppers. So it didn't really make, my rank in Andhra Pradesh probably didn't make any sense there. The point what I'm making is that no, your life and your actions have to be driven by the love for what you do, the why part. Why are you doing it? Why you get up every day and do what you want to do it? It can be anything. So that has to be fuel. I think that really, in fact, is one of my important takeaway from the book.
Thank you, Babu, for stressing the fact that please wake up every morning with a cause in your mind, and so that you can enjoy life, fulfilling life. Okay, so going on to the levers, the existential flexibility is one thing which I resonate with, because I remember when CADD Centre started 35 years ago, our original intention of starting the business was to provide CAD services. And we realized that we were probably 10 years early to the market, and 1 month down the line, we didn't know the revenue it's a big issue, and we were really didn't know how to further continue the business. And that's when we decided to start training, because training had a bigger demand at that time. So we quickly put together a training program and started offering, and there was no turning back after that. So it's a sort of how flexible you are in your business objectives, so that you continue to access, is the lever I could quickly resonate with. So my question to the panelists is, which of the 5 levers of infinite mindset you resonate with? So now let me start with Babu and go to Viji.
Yeah, I think all the 5, as you mentioned, Ram, they're actually beautiful. Each one is very deep, and I love, in fact, each of those 5. For me, I mean, since you asked me to pick one, probably I would pick the courageous leadership. And you may have a great cause, a noble cause that makes you come to work every day, or that really is a fuel for whatever you do. You may have great teams, and of course you have very probably worthy rivals. Despite all that, I think the organization is always actually driven by the leaders. Everything comes from top. So the leadership, the quality of the leadership, the courage they display is very, very important. Especially, things are becoming very, very competitive everywhere. And to stay in the business, to continue to be on course, beyond actually existence, right? I'm not talking about survival and existence. To do something, to give back to society, it's become very tough to stay in the game. Okay, if I have to put it, to stay in the game is not easy. So sometimes leaders may have temptations to take shortcuts. And I was talking to Captain some time back, that we were talking about Indian pharma industry, why we don't see a lot of innovative companies in India, there are a lot of generic industries in India. Indians are well known and great. We are known for the jugaad, the doing things very quickly, very fast, right? I mean, that's a great skill. I mean, one of the unique skills of Indians, but different reasons. Okay. Now back to the point. So leadership, when you are a leader and you have to make decisions for the future direction of the organization, it's very natural that either you are under pressure of cost, I mean competition, or maybe market is not right, or maybe logistics are very poor, and there are so many players, you still have to actually continue to be in the game, or sometimes there is a temptation to maybe go off the track, right? Which is actually probably, maybe it can really make probably quick money. So there are a lot of temptations. So there, the courage actually is very important. Sticking to the cause, and the direction comes from the leaders, from the top. So leaders have to ensure that despite of the market, despite of the competition, despite the challenges, despite of the temptations, organizations should continue to stick to the direction, the cause that is actually laid out. In fact, I was also reading some time back about, I'm sure in Chennai, the ID battery is very popular, right? And Mustafa was the founder, right? And he shared his story in Harvard Kennedy School. When they started in 2005, I think, they really struggled. They were not able to actually even make both ends meet. They were really struggling. And they are not able to make money. Survival also has become a big question for that ID batter company, right? So they were actually trying how to really generate more money. And they also have a product called, I think it's similar to nachos, I think. I think called as a diamonds or something, cut diamonds or something, a tasty snack. And they got huge order from one of the 5-star hotels. I don't want to name the hotel, 5-star or maybe 7-star company, for 1,000 kgs of that diamond cuts. I don't remember the name, but again, I think it's diamond cuts, similar to nachos. They were very excited. They really Mustafa felt that this huge order is really going to really change the future of the company. They're going to generate a lot of money. Then when he discussed further with the hotel about where they want to use this diamond cuts, they said, we are going to use it as a snack in bar. And Mustafa was very clear. They didn't want to really promote, I think, drinking. And he declined the offer, the huge offer. He said, we're not going to promote alcohol. Basically, the ID batter that we are actually committed to help household cooking. They want to actually give a pleasant experience for cooking for the homemakers, or maybe housewives, or even at home. So we don't want to really deviate from the vision. And he declined the huge offer, and he stayed on course. That needs lots of guts. I will tell you. Yeah, even in life, we are surrounded with lots of temptations. Certain easy things, easy wins, which are very lucrative. But again, no, you should really have the real guts. It's not a physical strength, it's a mental strength. The courageous leadership is the one which really helps you stay on course and leads the organization in the right direction. Yeah, an element of their just cause, what you mentioned. I think this is what is my favorite.
Wonderful, wonderful, Babu. I could.
Yeah, and my point is, he didn't yield to the temptation of making quick money. I know at that time they were really struggling. He said, we in Bangalore, we're not able to really survive. But still, he didn't yield to the easy money that he would have got. Yeah, thank you, sir.
By compromising on the value.
Yes.
Right? So, same thing. I can quickly, before going on to Viji, we had this temptation of PCs. PCs were booming during the late 80s and early 90s. So there was a temptation to get on to selling PCs for a company, but our promoters we clearly told let's stay focused on the CAD, which will give us the longevity for us and not get distracted. So I completely agree with what you said, Babu. Viji, your...
I think just to add on to that, that's a beautiful example that he quoted. So I think even in the book, Simon Sinek actually talks about stating that the example of CVS Pharma. So that is the example that he quotes in the book, stating that how the CEO took a decision to not, so it's a pharma company and they have a lot of pharma product. So they decided not to sell cigarettes because pharma is something that promotes health and cigarettes is going against that cause. Again, just cause, but how the CEO and everyone advised them against it because the huge shareholders that they had to answer, they're worried about profits. But then the CEO took the bold decision, and what the CEO realized was that there, in the next 3 years, the profit share actually increased and their investors actually made a lot more money. And in the place of cigarettes, they started selling the nicotine-free chewing gums and other substitutes, which actually boosted their sales, and it really encouraged the brand. And that is the courage with which the leader led. Yeah, so I think that's a brilliant example. For me, I think the overall, the book of having that infinite mindset, and specifically, I think that just cause. So as long as leaders stick to the cause, they are very clear with the cause. And Simon Sinek also gives some 5 tips on how to form your vision statement. And that's a beautiful thing which because that's something that a lot of leaders struggle, right? From entrepreneurs, I'm sure there are a lot of students out here. You're all going to be leaders in some of the organization. You could be entrepreneurs somewhere. You need to have what is your vision statement. And is that vision statement really inclusive? Is it designed only for your particular customers, or is it open to everyone? Is it flexible? So I think that is the tip that he goes on to provide. And he very clearly states, write down your vision statement, record it. And furthermore, make it public, put it on your websites, announce it to the world. And that really helps you stick to your cause, even during bad times. And as long as you know that in the long term, this is what you're focusing on. And that is something that's very important. And he quotes on multiple examples of how Microsoft, though Bill Gates started it with a particular vision, the CEOs who came thereafter, they missed out that cause. They started working for short-term profits. So that is something that really did not go well. And very clearly what Simon Sinek says is, once you have your cause very clearly, advance and work for that purpose of that particular cause. And keep your consumers first, not your profits, not your market share. That is not something that we should be focusing on, but start working towards the benefit of the consumers, what helps the consumers, build the trust with the consumers. And then that will automatically yield the revenues and generate the profit, which you put it further in for your cause. And that is what Simon Sinek summarizes. So for me, just cause is something that I would go with.
Thank you, Viji. In fact, just cause is definitely something to work for everyone. My next question to the panelist is, what is your view on current leadership of organizations? Like, you've been dealing with so many, you come across so many organizations, including your own organization. Do the leaders operate with finite mindset, or they are operate with infinite mindset? What is your general view on that?
Okay, you want me to start? Okay. Again, just want to have a disclaimer. Whatever I said these are all my personal views. So you said current leaders and the trend. So you see both trends. I cannot really probably, I think, generalize, Ram. Probably, I think I see styles both sides, like finite as well as infinite. There are some organizations, like again, once again, these are all my personal views, not of my organization. So yeah, there are some companies probably who play the short-term game. Then, and some, of course, are focusing on the long-term game. So I pick up examples of pharma from my experience. When I started my career, maybe in the 90s, so there were some great companies then, which actually pharmacy graduates really want to join. You must work for such a company. Again, I don't want to name, but again, there are some companies who people wanted to really get associated with that. They want to have the company name in their CVs. But again, if you look back, we are in 2022, some of the companies, actually those companies don't exist now. I mean, they were founded by, by founders with a great passion of serving humanity, bringing affordable, safe medicines to the world. What happens, in some cases, when next generation has taken over, probably the focus has changed, the priorities have changed. So they couldn't really stay in the game. Eventually, some of those companies which were like stars, right, in my early years, they don't even exist today. Either they disintegrated, they become bankrupt, or they were acquired by another company. So a lot of things happened. So, but again, there are also some companies who actually have been in business for more than 100 years. Pfizer, of course, is more than 100 years old in India, right? There are some companies who have been there in the game. So again, if you want me to really label it, probably I think I struggle to label whether current leaders are finite or infinite. But again, I think I see both in organizations.
Thank you, Babu. What is your...
So I think, again, with the same disclaimers again, so I completely agree with what Mr. Babu says here. So even I've been seeing, see, if you take Chennai, for example, I think we have so many family-owned businesses which have been running for years. TVS and all, you see such great growth, the Murugappa groups. But likewise, like we know when we grew up, or at least rather I'm seeing a lot of young folks over here, Saranabhavan was a big brand. Going to Saranabhavan and having a coffee there or having a tiffin, it used to be such a big thing. But now if I tell my mom that, Mama, let's go to Saranabhavan and have a snack, like, no, the quality is gone. Right? Such a big brand and it's just dropped. Right? And they grew all over the world. You go to US, you go to Singapore, you find a Saranabhavan. But what happened to the legacy? I think that is something that is very, very important. And one more thing that maybe I'm not sure if my observation or analysis is right or wrong. Companies that wanted to grow big time and with investor pressure, right? The pressure for the CEOs to perform, right from what the founders had. And CEOs, they know that it keeps changing. Because, so I think the short-term visions that the CEOs had and the pressure with which the CEOs were brought in to perform, I think probably that also played. They succumbed to the pressure and forgot the long-term vision that is there. I think that's something that is very, very important for, I think, leaders and CEOs to ensure that they have a infinite mindset. That's something that's very, very important. And in fact, Simon Sinek actually goes on to say that CFOs in an organization or COO in an organization, they know what exactly, because finance is something with numbers, they know what their definition is very clearly. COOs, day-to-day operations, and they know that, challenges every day. Whereas CEO, what does it define? So he in fact says that every CEO should actually rename themselves as CVO, as Chief Vision Officer, where your vision statements are very clear, right? As long as you have that cause, do not focus on the short term. And I think the pressure should not be there. And I think it's something that is overall, which the market has also created, the pressure, the media that's putting in, the shareholders. I think just that people have to just stay away from that. And the other observation, which again Simon Sinek has quoted, that S&P 500, the index of 500 companies, what they've said is, in 1970s, it used to be close to 61 years was the average lifespan of an organization, whereas currently it is reduced to 18 years. It's a very sad number to see that organizations, such large organizations, have such short-term focus. And that is one. And also the other very important statistics that Simon Sinek has said that in, again, 1978, the average salary of a CEO versus that of a worker was only 30 times. If a worker earned 10,000 or something, the CEO salary would only be 30 times more that of a worker. Whereas currently, it's almost 800% more, which is about like 270 times higher, right? Which is causing so much of variation. CEO salary has increased 80%, 800%, whereas that of a worker has increased only of 11%. right? So where is the CEO's focus going? Is it only a short-term focus of earning the money and getting out, or is there a long-term? So I think the market pressures and everything should actually change. And overall, I think the infinite mindset is something very, very important.
Thank you. In fact, if you look at Tata's, most of the Tata's companies are operating with infinite mindset. In fact, if you look at every company, I don't know how many of you have read the Tata stories, we haven't reviewed it, but it clearly says that every company started off with a cause, because. So if you had seen Tata Steel ad, they say we also make steel, you know. So cause is more important, no? Keeping the community intact and perpetuating was more important for them. And it is always, in the examples also, it's clearly told that finite mindset leaders have led to the company's downfall eventually. Kodak is one example. Like when digital revolution was taking place, they were only working with the finite mindset of protecting their chemical business and not changing. And eventually it went bankrupt. Similarly, Garmin, the GPS company, which started GPS, the maps in the first place, they were not wanting to change, and they want to continue with the device with the finite mindset approach, and eventually they lost their market share. So the message is loud and clear. Finite mindset is for short term, and it will lead to companies' downfall. And infinite mindset is what leaders should have. Now, my next question to the panelists is, we all agreed that building trusting teams really helps in growing the organization. My question to you is, how easy or difficult it is for you to build a trusting team today?
Okay, so for me personally, this is something that's very, very close to my heart. Trusting teams, and I'm very, very proud to say that some of my team members, they carried on with me and moved on with me. They're like family to me. Like I can easily call out names, and they're there for things. So anytime they'll be willing to answer a customer's call in the middle of the night or on a weekend, on a holiday. So I think that is what shows that. But it is not an easy thing, very important. So one of the simple exercise that I do is, one is on an annual basis every year that we meet. Because we meet up, so mine is my employees are spread across India. We are a 15-member team and we're spread across India. So I ensure that once every year they come over to Chennai and we take a resort and we just stay there and bond. But instead of discussing the company goals and the vision for the thing, what we do is we talk about each other's backgrounds, what's happening in their personal life. And I think that is something that's very, very strong. And I think that's really helped me in the long run. But sometimes the stories that people share are very heart-moving. People end up in tears. That is when because it's just a close thing and we open up and we share, more than the numbers and the vision that we talk about and the thing, this leaves a long-lasting impact. There are some people who open up stating that, hey, mine is a second marriage. My first thing didn't really go through well. I had domestic violence. And someone opens up and says that I lost my husband in COVID. And someone says that I was having a very bad childhood. And I think these things, when employees open up and share, you get to know their individual, the core persona of the thing, and why they are for what they are. So the next time when they are talking or when they are hurt, you know that this person's background is so, and that's how it comes out, right? So that plays a very, very strong thing for me. And I think even I'd like to quote Simon Sinek here again. On the Shell example that he's quoted, such a powerful story. I would urge you all to pick up the book and read that thing. So Shell is that oil rigs that they do. It's a very, very hazardous thing or a very difficult thing to go and rig a mine in the oceans and extract oil, drill oil, and they have targets, barrels to fill because it's like expensive machinery that are running. And such a huge investment that they've done. And simple exercise of building this trustable team. It's such a masculine role, only men are allowed there. And even a simple mistake that they do, they'll be chopped to pieces or they'll be thrown in the ocean, which you cannot rescue. But doing the simple exercise of trusting teams that Shell started doing it, and over a period of time they spread that to across their entire globally, and they realized that 84% their accident rates came down as compared to the industry. So that is something that's very, very important, and it just takes, like the example of Novas in the Four Seasons Hotel, or the Shell. I think it just takes a simple thing where you just open up and talk to people, talk to your employees, talk to your team members. Or in colleges, professors can talk to students, right? Understand why their behavior is what. Or parents can talk to their own children. I think this is something that's applicable everywhere, and that's something that's what I wanted to share about trusting teams.
Great, Viji. I think in a small company, it's a lot easier to connect with your people, include them, and get personal. But Babu, you come from a big company. How easy it is to build such trusting? Do they really open up?
Yeah, in fact, Viji actually ended with a nice point. She talked about communication. The professors should talk to students, and parents should continue to have a conversation with the student. Nowadays, we live in big houses. It happens in my house. Both daughters there live in their own rooms, and we are in another room. Conversation has become very, very minimal. So I think she ended with a good point. So coming back to difficulty, how whether difficulty or difficult it is to build trusting teams. I mean, it's not easy. But again, it is possible. And it's important for the success of the organization. Trust in the teams is very key, right? So again, I connected with the leadership efficiency, effectiveness of leadership. Leaders should really have to be very choosy in getting the talent who are passionate, aligned with the vision of the organization. Generally, we tend to buy talent from market who have the skills. Like, say, for example, I'm in pharma. Maybe I may generally get a temptation of hiring people who know the science of medicines, or maybe in pharmaceutics, or maybe drug safety, whatever. They're very important, certainly, no doubt about it. But in addition to that, sometimes even without the necessary technical skills, maybe you should hire the people, leaders should hire the people who are so passionate about what the organization does. So the alignment with the vision. So hire people, so technical skills can always be trained. Because the way, in fact, what we learned, it is going to become obsolete tomorrow. Because information is changing, technology is evolving, and science is changing, everything is changing and becoming obsolete overnight. So what we learned in schools and colleges and universities, tomorrow, one day it becomes very obsolete and it doesn't make any sense. It becomes very relevant. So we all have to be a student lifelong, that is there. But again, the attitudes and the alignment of the teams with the vision is the most important. So when leaders make focus on when they are interviewing, when they are talking to the talent, and when they hire people for the passion they have, for the alignment with the vision they have, I think there is greater trust. I think that will build. Of course, apart from that, of course, Viji works on safety, psychological safety, women safety in the organization. That's again another important aspect. Hire best people who are passionate about what you do, number one. Number two is create actually a safe environment. So people will be able to really accept their mistakes, accept that they don't know, and they're very open to speak up and share their ideas despite of the hierarchy, the layers in the organization. Then what happens? You get the best from that. Then I think communication, like where she ended, communication and alignment with the vision and a safe environment. These are the three things that make a trusting teams.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for that. So we come to the final question here. We are living in a very, very fast-paced world with total digital environment. And to top it all, we had COVID recently, which changed the behavioral patterns of people. So this infinite mindset, how relevant it is to the current generation, is my question to you, the final question. How relevant is infinite mindset to the current generation, which is looking for instant gratification?
Yeah. Can I take it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know we have many Gen Z here, Generation G. I mean, there's a future. Of course, both my daughters are Generation G, post-millennials. Like, I think he made a very good point. Instant gratification. It's technology. I think you are born with I think phones in hand, laptops in hand, and I think that's the thing. So I had seen. I'm speaking of my. I'm not speaking about my daughter, but I can see my daughters and also many youngsters around. Yeah, I think smart kids, no doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt. I think at my home, I say that my IQ is probably 1/10 of my daughter's IQ. I mean, I accept that. They're very super smart kids. All of you are very smart, right? So future should be in smarter hands. But again, apart from smartness, I think when we talked about the infinite game, doing things in the long term, with a longer game than the instant gratification that Ram mentioned, that's what is very important. The issue, what I see, I mean, with those kids actually who are interacted a lot, is that the distractions. The technology, the information overload is really actually, you know so many things, right? So when you know so many things, then information becomes a poison. You get distracted in multiple things, right? And you know how to search for information on one click. So you are born with the technology, and you want things to happen very fast. On one click, Swiggy should deliver maybe in 20 minutes, otherwise you ask for refund of the money. It's all like that. So instant gratification like he brought, that actually, reduces your patience. Probably you will not be able to stay long in the game. Maybe we have brought down, okay, in my younger days, I always loved test matches. But today we are actually T20s. Even, I think sometimes 20 overs also becoming very, very boring. Correct? So our attention span, our patience, all these are actually coming down. So coming back to this book, if you have to be in the game, infinite game, but the first thing that you all have to acquire is the patience. Sometimes you won't get results even in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, but still you should stick to what you love. Correct? So that's what actually is needed. I think if that is developed by Gen Z, I think they're great. I think this future is going to be in smart hands, and they are going to lead the world into something different.
Thank you for your perspective. Viji, what is your experience probably with your daughter?
Yeah, so I also have a son and a daughter, and I think my son is going to be taking the 10th boards next month. I think they're very clear sometimes. What I feel is, because I've been hearing this even when I work with a lot of organizations, some of the HR folks, they have to change the policies for the younger generation. It is no longer the older, so people have started removing dress codes. Because every time I travel outside to Bangalore, Mumbai, I'm like shocked with the dress codes at work. So no longer formal self is gone to a different level. And I think organizations have to be flexible that way. They are comfortable wearing modern clothes, and that is something that gives them the pride. And I think that is something that organizations have to adjust to that, accommodate that. And youngsters are very, very clear stating that, hey, we will take up work with organizations that are very, very inclusive, which are very diverse. We won't work with organizations which have strict rules. They are very clear on that. And now organizations are gearing up to change the policies to accommodate the thought process. And people are very clear. They say that, hey, this is what is my vision long term, but this is the area that I want to work on, and I'll focus on that. And if they are given a different role, they're very clearly denying that. So I could relate that when my son comes back and says that, Mom, I like only maths and computer science. I hate social. So please be prepared I'll get only 60 marks in that, but rest I'll guarantee you 90 plus. He's like, I won't read Tamil, I won't read social, because I don't see any value in reading that. It's not going to help me in my future. Because that is the thing, probably long term, that is what, he doesn't see it as a short term saying like next 2 months, just finish it off. No, they want to look at it in the long term. So probably I think, definitely we saw even during the Varda floods and everything, we saw the younger generation coming up and helping out a lot. I'm sure the future is in safe hands. That is something that is there. Just that I'm sure, I think this book is something that I would definitely recommend even our politicians, our leaders to read it, because even this book is applicable even for them. He's quoted examples of how American politicians, leaders, when they formed the Declaration of Independence, how it was important to create something for a future. We the people, all men are equal. These are very powerful statements that they opened up with. And I think that is something very, very important for even our leaders to create a long term. And how many of you saw today's Economic Times edition? Did anyone see today's Economic Times? The opening page, the big ad. Anyone? There's a beautiful ad by Mahindra. I would recommend you all to go back and take a look or see if it's online available. It's a one-page beautiful ad, the opening page of ET. And they very clearly have sent out a thing saying, dear leaders, dear companies, what are you doing for future citizens? What is your cause? Are you creating more factories or are you creating more forests? It's a beautiful poem kind of thing that they've written, and they've ended it. They've urged leaders and organizations to create a vision for a longer term and to create a safer world for the next generation to come. And I think as long as all the leaders are working, I'm sure the next generation is going to take that forward and take it forward.
Okay, so in conclusion, I think the infinite mindset really works. And if you are working for advancing a just cause, building trusting teams, and learning from your worthy rivals, and being flexible to exist, and being courageous to take bold decisions that keep you on track, I think we are here to stay for a long time. I encourage all of you to read this book and benefit from that. Thank you very much for your patient listening for the review. Now we are open to Q&A.
Anyone wants to ask a question to the panel? I see a lot of youngsters here. I'm sure there are a lot of questions in your mind. Yeah. No, we don't have it in Kindles. Not it. No, we don't. Anybody? No? Okay. Until maybe you will start thinking about a question now. We got about 526 people watching this program online. So there are a few questions that have come online as well. Let me take at least 2-3 questions. We have some time. And meanwhile, if there is anyone in this audience who wants to ask a question, beautiful book, very well discussed. I think we could have continued, but for this discussing this book, the time is very finite. So I think we have to close it with this, otherwise we could have carried on a lot of more lessons possibly from that. So let me take a few questions, unless, first question, let me pose it to Mr. Ram. So this is from Mr. Pillai, he is sent in from Chengalpet. He is asking, sir, you've talked about the companies sticking to the core, and many times you also came out with the example of your own CADD Centre, of sticking to the core and not going with the sale of PCs. But there are some theories which says that diversification also is important. So how do you balance between the two?
Okay, see, diversification indirectly means existential flexibility, right? So even if you diversify, you need to have a focus for that particular business. And look, for example, even within CADD Centre, we had a separate business for equipment, which was operating as an independent entity without losing the focus of our training objective. So this independent entity ran for about 25 years with its own goals and vision and objective. So it is a diversification without losing focus. That's more important. You cannot distract it. Like, for example, you cannot kill the training business by starting the equipment business.
Yeah.
Or kill equipment business by starting. No, that's what we are talking about, distraction. You can start new businesses with the focus to advance that business's just cause.
Right.
That's my answer to.
Great, sir. Thank you. There is one Miss Sheila Shivram. She sent a question on trust, so I think I'll pose it to Mr. Mr. Babu. The question is, sir, is the trust inborn with the company and its founders, or is the trust built over a period of time? And if there is a trust deficit, what is the role of a CEO in bridging the trust deficit?
Okay. So if I understood the question correctly, Ram, you can help me if I misunderstood. So the question is about whether it's inborn or it is cultivated, or if there is a trust deficit, how CEO helps in creating that trust.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I think I mentioned already in one of my earlier answers CEO certainly, I mean, you don't generally, you're not born with trust and it doesn't happen just, except for parents probably. A child probably, I think, when he is dependent, naturally, the way he is cared by his parents, naturally he starts developing trust. Right, and nobody is actually born trustworthy or untrustworthy. We are not born with that. But as coming to the organizations, you are an adult. You have already gained some experiences, probably positive as well as negative experiences, and sometimes you have a tendency to accept things with positive mind. Some people don't accept the things, and maybe when somebody joins a new company, maybe he may start seeing the things suspiciously. Whether can I trust my manager? Not trust. How should I speak? Not speak. So I don't think anybody actually, you cannot take it for granted. It has to be developed. So even if it is formed, even if someone has a trust in a company or in a manager or in the system, you cannot really take it for granted that it lasts forever. So CEO, not only CEO, every leader has a responsibility to ensure that the trust factor is still maintained within the teams and across the organization. That can only happen, coming back to whatever I said earlier, is only by regular communication, being authentic and very genuine, transparent. But CEO himself has to be, or leader himself has to be a trustworthy person first. And we become a role models. I become a role model, and maybe people who are working with me, they start actually developing a trust that, okay, this person is reliable. I can count on him. I can be open with him. He is not going to really penalize me if I do something wrong. So you can only inculcate, but I don't think anybody is born with trust for lifelong. You cannot take it for granted. It has to be nurtured and maintained. So this is my view.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I think I will go with one question for Ms. Viji Hari. This is from Mr. Robert. Madam, I am a technical consultant, and I see that from your profile you are working on diversity, inclusion, POSH and all such issues. He wants to know the Vishaka committee guidelines, whether they have been properly implemented by the organizations, because he says in certain organizations I have found that the issues are actually pushed under the carpet without bringing it to the light for the feeling of loss of credibility of the organization. So how do these things can be improved for the purpose of compliance?
Beautiful. I think, so again, the matter of trust comes in over here a lot. So when organizations or leaders shove issues like sexual harassment under the carpet, I think that definitely leads to the downfall of the organization for sure. There have been so many examples in the industry, so many CEOs who have lost their jobs. The classic example of Uber. That's what happened when the company started off. They did not focus on the culture of the organization. They only focused on numbers. It was investor-led and everything. There was sexual harassment cases which was like huge. And because of which the CEO eventually lost the job, and the founder, he was the founder and CEO, he had to step down and resign. So that is the downfall that leads to, and trust is something very important. Organizations are working, I've been working with a lot of organizations, and definitely a lot of organizations are doing it. And even if organizations are not doing, the law is very robust and it has provided alternative mechanisms. You can definitely write to the Women's Commission in your respective, you can approach the district officer. There is something called She Box, SHE-box. You just Google it and you can find it. It's there with the Ministry of Women and Child Department. So anyone can go and file a complaint over there against that, or that their organizations are not taking it up. So I think there are so many other forums in which employees can approach. So I think it's definitely important that organizations should understand that this is not something that can be hidden or shoved under the carpet, but that's something to safeguard their own and build the trust, the culture in your organization, to build a safe workplace. Very important that organizations start doing it.
Great, ma'am. Thank you. Someone else here yeah. Oh, yes, please.
Excellent book and excellent session so far. I had a quick question. During the course of the panel, you were talking about purpose and passion to be driving the most important part. And I couldn't help connecting this with the article that I read today morning, that is of a startup called Go Mechanic, where some of the founders had to fudge their books, right? So I'm just trying to get the context. Every founder of a startup is purposeful and passionate about his venture, right? That's how everybody starts. But somewhere along the line, they collect money, they take funds from venture capitalists, and they want to show growth and thing. And somewhere the purpose gets lost, and then they have to kind of do stuff like this, fudge books and so on and so forth. What is the panelist thought? Where is this thing going wrong? This infinite game, especially in the startup world, where some impossible numbers are touted and impossible valuations are found. Is there something that we're losing the plot, especially in the Indian context? Any of you?
I think today's startup game is more of a played with the finite mindset. I need to submit that it starts with the infinite, it's an infinite game played with a finite mindset. So, like you rightly pointed out, it is lost somewhere down the line. So they start with a good purpose, and then the evaluation and the money making takes over. And when it takes over, your finite mindset is switched on. And it's very, very difficult to continue with the infinite mindset. That is also true. It's not that how Simon has required, please operate with it. It's very difficult. In today's pressures and demands from the shareholders and the investors, it's extremely difficult to balance both. So people switch on to finite mindset. That is the current truth, which we cannot put under the carpet. That's my view. If others can add on to it.
No, I think even Simon has quoted ethical fading is one chapter which he's talking about. And in that, he's very clearly calling out, stating that people are not born bad. Okay? But when pressure is there, under stress, how they change. So he goes on to the extent of citing this Wells Fargo example. Between 2011 to 2016, some 300 million or 3 million accounts, fake accounts were created by their own employees. 5,000 employees created some 3 million accounts just because they had to achieve their target. So much of pressure, sales pressure on employees, they were all good. But just because the pressure that the organization or the management was putting in, otherwise they'll be like, I'll lose my job. So 5,000 employees all got together and the ethics fades, right? So I think at the end of a simple thought, I think even the resilience is something very, very important, which we're all losing out now. Very important for people to understand that as long as your core strengths are very strong, your purpose, as long as you have the confidence that, hey, this is what my strengths are and these are the things that I can shine and strive for, as long as you're clear on that. If not this job, next. If not, I mean, and all the investors also, I think, very, very clear that if they invest in 10 different companies, only 2 or 3 will be a unicorn or will be succeeding very well. They'll get returns. They know for sure that 7 or 8 companies will flop. And I think as long as people understand that, it's okay to fail, but as long as you stick to the core principle, that's very important.
Thank you. I think, so I think with this, we come to the end of this evening session. Ladies and gentlemen, all the 3 panelists deserve a round of applause. I request Group Captain Vijay Kumar to step forward and honor the panelists this evening. So I request you all to step forward. Yeah, Mr. Babu, please join in, one of the Sutradhars for this series. So like we do every time, the panelists who come here on this particular platform are all very, very passionate about reading. So we give them more books to go back and read. Yes.
Your answer. You said yes, we leave it. Let's keep it. Yeah, sure. Let's keep it. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, come. That was